Can I get, let's see here. Can I get a roll call of commission members, please?
Commissioner Helfrey,
Here.
Commissioner Ward, Commissioner Cohn,
Here.
Commissioner Broy,
Here.
Commissioner Clayton,
Here.
Commissioner Duffler,
Here.
Commissioner Jackson, Chair Beatty,
Here.
Councilmember Brost, Mayor Bolden.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get an approval of the minutes from the meeting from November 1st? Motion to approve by Commissioner Broyles. Second by Commissioner Helfrey. All those in favor, or any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Minutes are approved.
Thank you.
Does the department have any opening comments?
Mr. Chair, I do not, just thanking all the Planning and Zoning Commission members for their attendance tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So let's see. So first we'll have the public comment session. And if you would like to speak on anything not in one of the 4 public hearings, now is your time to speak. And if you would like to speak, just use the raise hand feature in Zoom, and we will bring you in as a panelist, and you can let us know what you have to say. Due to the length of the agenda, I want to remind everyone that there will be a 5-minute limit on any items you would like to speak on. Thank you. I'm not seeing any hands raised right now. So, there is one hand raised.
Mr. Chair, the individual has named themselves, I think, with their initials JCS.
Yeah.
And just as a reminder to that individual, this is the time for not the public hearings on the agenda, but any other item. And I'll promote them to panelists.
I'm with SunPro Solar. I just didn't know when exactly you want to speak with us.
That is under one of the public hearings, I believe.
Okay, my fault. I just didn't know exactly when it would be for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll give you time when that comes up.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Excuse me 1 second. All right. So seeing no public comments, we will move on to the first public hearing. And in the city of Wildwood, public hearings are truly intended to accept comments and questions concerning the advertised items. Since these requests are being presented at a public hearing, no action is planned on them tonight, and consideration of these items is to be taken no earlier than January 17th, 2022. This approach ensures that members of the Planning and Zoning Commission will hear all opinions before taking any action. The city's Department of Planning will address the comments, questions, and concerns that are raised tonight and include them as part of its formal recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The commission will allow all parties adequate time to present their position. Those in attendance via the Zoom webinar feature platform should use the raise hand feature to indicate you wish to speak at these hearings, or to indicate in the chat feature that you would like to speak. A team member will add you to the list of speakers that will then be communicated to me as chair, and I will invite you to speak when it is your turn. In addition, information on these items can be found on the city's website at www.cityofwildwood.com. The commission would like to thank you for your cooperation and participation in tonight's hearings. So the first item we have on the agenda is let's see, a request for CUP for some roof-mounted solar panels. So Travis, are you speaking on this one?
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, if I could read it into the record.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. PZ 27-21, Johan E. Sanchez, 2511 Hickory Manor Drive, Wildwood, Missouri 63011, care of Nikki Rosario, Sunpro Solar, 8124 Buncombe Road, Caseyville, Illinois 62232. A request for a conditional use permit, CUP, in the R3 10,000 square foot residence district with the planned environment unit, street address 2511 Hickory Manor Drive, locator number 23V421021, for the installation of roof-mounted solar panels, which are to be placed on the rear of the dwelling, but due to the lot having double frontage, are to be situated as to be visible from the adjoining roadway, Taylor Road. This request is to be reviewed in accordance with Chapter 415.140 R3 10,000 square foot residence district regulations of the City of Wildwood zoning ordinances, which establishes standards and requirements for the installation of solar panels. The requested permit is required due to the panel's placement on the rear-facing area of the roofs of the dwelling and would be visible from the adjoining roadway, Ward 5.
Thank you, Travis. Mr. Vimich?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And with your permission, Mr. Newberry will share screen.
Go right ahead.
Mr. Chair and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, as you may recall, this particular item has been before the Planning and Zoning Commission on 2 other occasions. In each instance, the Planning and Zoning Commission postponed any action on the public hearing, i.e. closing it, to allow for additional photographs to be offered into the record regarding this particular matter. It was also at that time the Department of Planning introduced the city's charter, master plan, Chapter 415 of the City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the zoning ordinance, the file, and then any other information that has been offered as part of those 2 hearings, as well as tonight. Per the request of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the department has provided additional photographs of the subject site, and these were taken now in December of this year versus those previous months. The first slide that is on the screen tonight is taken from the sidewalk area looking toward the northeast at the subject site. The vegetation that still retains leaves is our old friend bush honeysuckle.
Thank you, Mr. Vimich.
The next slide is working our way to the north along the edge of the pavement. And in the foreground of the slide is the subject property and the dwelling. And here you can see the rear elevation and the roof itself. Again, kind of now walking toward the site on the sidewalk, edge of sidewalk, again, looking toward the northeast, and the dwelling and subject lot are in the center of the slide. This is now looking directly east at the lot and subject dwelling. And again, we're at the edge of the pavement area. And this is just a close-up of the same location. Again, now we're just walking along the edge of right-of-way at the pavement. And again, here's the utility boxes for AT&T. And in the background, you can see the roof of the subject dwelling and lot. This is just a close-up of that same location. Again, just kind of walking along now the sidewalk itself at the edge of the AT&T equipment area. And again, this is the subject dwelling lot and the rear elevation of that building. Back at the edge of the pavement, again, just a little further to the north, kind of again looking toward the east at the subject lot and dwelling. And this is just a bit of a close-up of the same location. This again is just working further to the north along Taylor Road, kind of give you a perspective. We're actually on the opposite side of Etherton Road, what I would call the west right-of-way line. And this is just a close-up of the same. And then the last slide is being presented is the same as the last slide and the other presentations. And this is from the cul-de-sac where the subject property is located. And this is looking toward the west up toward Taylor Road. And Mr. Newberry is kind of highlighting the AT&T equipment area as kind of a landmark, and then Taylor Road to its background. Again, the department hopes that the photographs, the slides that it's provided are more indicative of what it may look during the winter months when some of the deciduous trees have lost their leaves and the visibility is, I think, more clear to determine. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the commission have any comments? Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this?
Well, Mr. Chair, before we do that, there was the gentleman from representing the petitioner, Sun Pro Solar. If there's no objection from the commission members, we can promote him to panelist. And if he has anything he'd like to add, then we can go to the public comment.
Not at all. Bring him in.
Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
My name is John Scariano. I'm territory manager for Sun Pro Solar.
And Mr. Chair, are there any questions for the gentleman?
Mayor Bowen?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if this is a question for the petitioner's representative or actually maybe a question for Joe. And it is relative to the trees that we see that shield the back of the house, you know, both in the winter and in the summer months. And I may have missed this if you've talked about it earlier, and if so, my apology. But who has jurisdiction or control over those trees? I'm assuming it's not the homeowner, or it may be a little bit of both. So that's my question.
The latter is true, Mr. Mayor. I believe some of them are located within the confines of the city's right-of-way, as you can see from the sidewalk area. And then some, I believe, are on the lot of the petitioner himself, in this case, Mr. Sanchez. So it's kind of a mix. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So just as a follow-up comment, I guess if when the time comes, if the commission decides to move forward with an approval of this, given the shielding that those provide, my assumption is that we could make it a condition of that approval that those trees remain in place, and if they die, they be replaced to continue the shield of the panels. Is that correct, Joe?
It certainly is, sir. With the conditional use permit, we can add requirements relating to the preservation of the existing woodland areas, individual trees, etc. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Broyles. You're muted.
Here.
Now we can hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joe, you mentioned that some of those were honeysuckle along that back fence.
The majority of the honeysuckle, Commissioner Broyles, is more to the south. I wanted to provide the commission kind of a perspective as you went from south to north. So the majority of the honeysuckle is somewhat removed from the core area of the subject lot.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am. Thank you.
Commissioner Depler.
I just had a quick question. Have any of the other neighbors provided any input on this conditional use permit?
Commissioner Depler, as we do per code, we've identified the public hearing on 3 occasions through 3 separate postings and mailings. And I believe, based upon the review of the packet of information, we have not received any comments at this time, but I'm going to let Mr. Newberry tell me if I'm incorrect in that assessment.
Commissioner Depler, appears we have received 3 comments.
My apologies.
That all are in support of the petitioner's proposal.
Thank you, Travis.
Mayor Boland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Relative to that, and again, if this was mentioned earlier, my apology. My recollection is, Joe, under the CUP ordinance that we're discussing, as to which approval could be granted for this request, that we require approval from the subdivision itself, as evidenced by their trustees giving us that indication. Is that correct?
Yes, one of the key components of our regulations relating to solar panel systems is the participation of the homeowners association. And certainly if the Planning and Zoning Commission were to consider a favorable action, that would be incumbent before the department would prepare any report or a letter of recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. And I ask that not just because, to follow up on Commissioner Depler's comment, while the trustees may or may not live next to this particular parcel, they do represent everyone in that subdivision, obviously, and that's why we had that made a condition for the granting of these CUPs. So I just wanted to mention that mainly for information. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And with the petitioner's representative here tonight, if you could either yourself or have the property owner contact the trustee association so we could get that letter one way or another. Thank you.
I apologize. I forgot your name from Sunpro.
John Scariano.
John. All right.
We,
yeah, go ahead.
we do have approval with the HOA already.
Thank you.
Again, sir, if you could provide that in some form, either the letter that was written by the trustees of the homeowners association, the email, et cetera, we'd appreciate it very much.
Certainly. We've communicated with them. I will get that from my corporate office tomorrow morning and forward that to you.
Are there any other comments? Seeing none, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Mr. Chair, could we go
Yeah.
to the attendees and see if anyone that is an attendee would like to speak on this particular hearing?
Okay.
Thank you.
If anyone else would like to speak, please use the raise hand feature or say something in the chat. Seeing none. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing? Commissioner Helfrey,
I will make a motion to close.
and second by Commissioner Depler. Let's see here. Is it roll call or voice?
Voice, sir.
Okay,
Voice.
all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? The hearing is now closed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda. Request for the town center boundary. Travis?
Thank you.
Chair, I'll actually do that since
Oh,
Mr.
okay.
Newberry
Sorry.
will be doing his share screen and narrating the slideshow.
Okay,
PZ 26-21, Getmeyer Town Center Boundary Request, Edward and Patricia Getmeyer, 2655 Christie Avenue, Wildwood, Missouri, 63040. A request for an amendment to the Town Center boundary map of the city's master plan and comprehensive zoning plan to include one property totaling 1.69 acres that is located on the west side of Christie Avenue, south of its intersection with Manchester Road. Street address 2655 Christie Avenue, St. Louis County locator number 24W 630054. The property is currently designated non-urban residential area under the conceptual land use categories of the city's master plan. This particular property is located in Ward 1. And again, with your permission, Mr. Chair, Mr. Newberry will share screen and provide some information relating to this request. Thank you.
Mr. Newberry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, as was just read into the record, the department is in receipt of a request to include a property into the city's town center boundary area. The first slide that's being shown is an aerial view of this area of the city of Wildwood, identifying the subject property with this light blue box. The next slide is familiar to the commission. It is the approved regulating plan map for the city's town center area with the various districts identified. This property has been highlighted with this yellow box. It is located currently outside of the town center boundary, which is this dark red line. And then the next few slides will just be some photographs of the subject site just to familiarize the commission with the property. This is standing at the driveway of the property looking to the north on Christie Avenue towards Manchester Road. This is standing at the same location looking to the south on Christie Avenue. This is a view to the west from the eastern property boundary, which is Christie. This is standing, this is a view of the west to the west, standing at the northwest corner of the property. And this is a view to the northwest from the southeast corner of the property. And this is the view standing at that same location looking north on Christie Avenue. And that concludes the department's presentation. Mr. Chair, with your permission, if the individuals who are here to represent the Gettemeyers would please use the raised hand feature so that I could promote them in.
Go right ahead.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I'm Bridget Forbes. I'm the real estate agent representing the Gettemeyers for this particular meeting. So the Gettemeyers had bought this property many years ago, and it's been in the family, and they are looking to get its highest and best use, of which the home is in poor shape and is a rental for the family. And I've had several builders that have had some interest in it, but don't want to go through the process because it's non-urban. I believe that based on, new homes in your area, that if they could put like a hammerhead street in either on, let's say, the north or south side of the property, moving, like, making a small street and a hammerhead so that there could be a fire truck that could get in, that they could get 2 to 3 new construction properties there, which would allow the Gedemeyers to have, income for their basically last years. And it would be for them their highest and best use. It's also something that, builders would be interested in. So I just wanted to see if it would be a possibility for it to be put into town center, of which then it would be a possibility to have those 3 lots. And the property is big enough to put a hammerhead street in and have 3 separate lots.
So I guess looking at the town center map, it is directly adjacent to the Pond Historic District. Mr. Newberry, Mr. Vunich, what all would be allowed in that area? I don't necessarily see it getting neighborhood edge or neighborhood general. And then the new neighborhood edge transition has a lot minimum pretty close to the size of the lot. So it would not be able to be split with the neighborhood edge transition, I don't believe.
Well, Mr. Chair, Ms. Ripito, Mr. Newberry, and I provided also, along with the general posting information regarding this request, a primer. And as part of the primer, we did include the boundary map for town center area, as well as the permitted uses. And one of the uses that could be anticipated in the Pond Historic District is single-family detached dwellings, as was just described by petitioner's representative. There are also some other permitted uses that are more commercial in nature, as well as cultural and institutional. I would just conclude by saying that the Pond Historic District has some of the greatest flexibility, at least in terms of design standards and architectural guidelines. Those architectural guidelines are intended to kind of promote the historic character of the Pond Historic District. However, you'll see there aren't a great number of them associated with that particular land use category. But yes, single family dwellings is one that could be considered. Thank you.
Commissioner Helfrey, I think I saw your hand first.
Okay, so my first question is directed to Mr. Vunich or Travis. And that is, when we did the town center update, which was an onerous thing that we did, it took us 2 years to do it. There were a great many people involved and we spent a good amount of time at this. How many properties did we actually end up adding to the town center area? Whether it be neighborhood transition, whatever. We were looking at addition A1 and addition A3. Are those the only 2 that we added in? That's on the second sheet that you gave us in our packet. We added, I think, addition A1 and A3. Is that correct?
Yes, Ms. Helfrey, the town center update team recommended 2 additions, and roughly speaking, there were 5 properties in addition A1 and about 8 or 9 properties total in addition A3. And those were the only inclusions into the town center boundary, and both were brought in as neighborhood edge transition district.
Okay, so we know that it was not, as a general rule, people weren't rushing to add properties to the town center boundaries. I mean, as far as it wasn't decided that everything that was going to go in there. So my next question is, this property, it looks to me on this map that it is surrounded by non-urban. So you've got this one property that they want to add on to the back of the pond, the historic district. And so while you say that we are allowing single family dwellings are permitted, what is the, how many, my question is, how many houses per acre is allowed in that area? And if it's a historic area and the builder wants to come in and build new homes, how does that jive with historic and new? To me, it doesn't sound like it's a good fit, and I'm just trying to understand it. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Helfrey, was your question directed toward petitioner's representative or to the Department of Planning?
You. Yes, you, sir. Thank you.
Well, Ms. Helfrey, first and foremost, with almost 1.7 acres of acreage associated with the property, at least 2 home sites could be accommodated with a public street or private street for access purposes and emergency response. How those houses would be architecturally speaking, certainly if they are part of the Pond Historic District, they would have to take cues from the built environment around it, meaning those residences that are part of the Pond Historic District and what they look like, generally speaking. That would be a process that would include the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Architectural Review Board, and the Historic Preservation Commission, if the commission is inclined to amend the boundary map. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I always appreciate your expertise and your patience with me.
Mayor Boland?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Helfrey covered some of what I was going to mention, so I'll leave that alone. I just wanted to say on a broader level and to tag on to her comments, we just finished an extensive town center update map with the town center zoning regulations, and much thought went into that by Commissioner Helfrey as a member of that and many others. And that alone would cause me to pause before we would make any change to it, and particularly to do it so quickly, following its adoption by the city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any other comments or questions from the commission? Bridget?
I would just like to add, in this current real estate market, we're definitely on an inventory low, and so new construction is on the rise. It's a great piece of land that could offer new construction to people that would be interested in it. Even the neighbor to the south has, displayed some interest in possibly, selling off land to new construction. So it's not that it wouldn't, continue if allowed, although, we've sold, my team has sold another piece of property on Christie Avenue, and, some of those properties are really dilapidated, and I would think that any improvement to the area would be an improvement for Wildwood.
Mayor Bowen? And then Commissioner Cohn after that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So relative to the comment that was just made, we frequently hear comments as to, the current state of the real estate market, what will sell, what won't sell, and those kinds of things. And while, with all due respect, that is certainly relevant, I think from some angles, from a city perspective, it is not, so to speak, the tail that wags the dog. The tail that wags the dog is what is in the best interest of our residents, and how that is affected through our zoning ordinances over both the short and the long term. So I guess what I'm saying is, just to sort of put it in, short order terms, the fact that we might be able to change zoning on something and allow something to be put on there so it could sell tomorrow is very far, and I'll just speak for myself from my consideration as to what we look at when we determine how land within our city should be utilized. Thank you.
Commissioner Cohn?
I just think that prior to continuing this discussion or ending decision on it, there needs to be some type of a rough draft of an engineering sketch of some kind to see what really is proposed rather than a verbal description of what they could possibly do with the property. That's my comment.
Bridget?
Just with regards to, I guess, our client, just so I could give perspective, they're in their 90s, I believe. And I guess my question would be is, we could provide whatever, material you would want in order for them to get, what they want out of the property. But the likelihood of this happening percentage wise, if we provide you provide you with the proper, let's say, engineering or rough sketch of what they're actually proposing, which would be something that like several builders said this would be its highest and best use, or what I would do with it, based on, what you could put on there. What is the likelihood of this? So I could just allow them to know what we're up against.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go right ahead.
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, I'm sure it's a fair question from petitioner's representative, but I would encourage the commission not to respond to it, to kind of basically give a preliminary direction or a vote or some kind of idea of what might happen or not, I think is premature at a public hearing. What I suggest to the petitioner's representative is I can send you what typically constitutes a sketch plan. And it's not a signed or sealed drawing, but certainly would give the Planning and Zoning Commission members an idea of how that private or public roadway might be placed on the site, as well as how many lots might be associated with it. So I'd be glad to do that for the Planning and Zoning Commission tomorrow and offer that to the petitioner's representative. Thank you.
Commissioner Broyles?
I just want to be clear about is this family requesting to be included in town center? Is that what I heard?
Yes.
So that's apart from all of the legality of putting drawings together or sketches or whatever and bringing it back to us.
I mean, we're happy to comply, with what we can in order to make this, in order to accomplish it. I think we're only looking for one curb cut, because we would be putting in like a hammerhead street to allow for fire and safety. And, instead of putting two houses next to each other, if that makes more sense for the street. But, we're happy to accommodate, within their means, whatever you like. But the main goal would be to be a part of town center in order for it to not be a non-urban property, and they could get multiple houses, whether that be two or something like that versus one. The current house is probably not in a condition to be sold in anything other than as is. But, they believe, along with their family members, that the land is more valuable than the house itself.
I think there's a lot of discussion that would have to take place. I too was on that committee for 2 years, the Town Center Update team, and with a variety of other people. And I think that needs to be investigated as well, because that may not happen.
I mean, I'd be open to suggestions, whether, like in other municipalities, we've gotten variances based on one specific piece and then parcel them out. So I don't know that necessarily that has to be its only route. It's just one that's probably the most direct. would be to, if it was encompassed, then there wouldn't have to be a variance applied, but I think the sellers would be open to anything. They're just looking, to have basically their end of life plan put together. This would be, kind of like what they're looking for to get their, the most amount of money so that they can, provide for themselves and their homes and whatnot. And it's not necessarily for the house. And although that is not your primary concern, for them to be able to put multiple, new constructions, even if it's just two, would give them a better value. And, from the perspective of real estate in general, I work with a lot of different builders and there is interest, but only if there could be more than one.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the commission have any further comments on this?
I vote to close the public hearing.
Well, we need to
Oh,
let the residents speak. There's at least one that
Sorry,
has
I
their
thought we
hand
were done.
raised. But thank you. Sam and Shirley Kulela.
Mr. Chair, they're being promoted to be panelists.
Okay.
Can you, okay, now you're in, Okay.
My concern is that these are.
Can you state your name and
Sam
address?
Malala, my wife Shirley's with me. We live further down on past this piece of property. They're trying to put in 3 homes here. I keep hearing them talk about 2, but they're trying to put in 3. What's to say the very next lot won't put 3 or 4 houses in? Chris Road is very, very, very narrow, and it's already dangerous enough with people coming and going. My concern is what's next?
We've lived here 38.
We've lived here 38 years, and we came out here and we were very happy when Wildwood took over because of the promise of keeping things green. And now we're having it where we're able to take 1.6 something acres and turn them into 3 houses. What's next?
Keeping it 3 acres.
Yeah, what happened to keeping the 3 acres? The very next lot can then be adjoining to the pond historic area, and it's next. And it could be knocked down, and who knows what, again, 3 more houses? I mean, how long are we gonna go with this? And is it really gonna be historical homes that are built like the old ones that are in the historical section? I don't think so. So I'm just a little concerned that the road is not ready for it, and they keep talking about 2, but they're really looking at 3. And that means that's a 1.6 to be divided 3 ways. And I don't think that's something that fits in with the pond historical area.
Or Wildwood.
Or Wildwood, for that matter. Anything else? No, I think that's good.
Thank you
That's
for your
our-
comments.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr.
Is
Chair,
there any, Mr. Vunich?
you were, I think, going to do exactly what I was going to do. so
Okay.
Pardon my interruption.
If anyone else would like to speak, please raise your hand.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, go ahead.
Mr. and Mrs. Bart made a comment asking if some written comments that they had submitted would be read into the record. They've now raised their hand, so I'll promote them
Okay.
panelists with your permission.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and promote them.
Thank you.
And while we're promoting them, there's been a couple comments about the lot not being 3 acres as it is. I'm assuming that's a legal lot from when St. Louis County allowed 1 acre lots in this area.
Yes, Mr. Chair, not until 1965 did the minimum lot area out in this portion of unincorporated St. Louis County, now Wildwood, become a 3 acre minimum. prior to that, from 1948 to about 1965, the minimum acreage was 1 acre. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Ms. Bartz.
Hi, thank you so much. I just was hoping that our public comments were going to be read. I know some neighbors weren't able to attend and they submitted some comments. Just hoping that everyone could hear all of those comments. So I can either repeat ours or they could be read. Either one would be just fine.
Go ahead and repeat what you had said, but yeah, any comments that were received via email or mail are in the public record, although they won't necessarily be read out loud.
Okay, I'm sorry, I must have misunderstood that when I read the agenda. My husband, Brian, and I live further down the road as well. We moved here from St. Louis City on a 1/10 of an acre. We'll be at our 2-year anniversary this December. So honestly, this really makes us quite sad to think about the 3 acres that we bought intentionally in an area where there were homes with multiple acres, to think about it being subdivided. We know that there are elderly people all around us. And so as I hear this real estate agent talking about helping folks to secure their future, I only wonder what will happen with the other elderly individuals that live along our road with the multiple acres. So this really concerns us for the reasons that other individuals along our road listed in the chat in terms of the narrowness of our road. It's very difficult for 2 cars to travel down the road at the same time. And there's a lot, just 2 lots down where someone's building a single residence right now. And so I just can't imagine that. And we see lots of comments from those of us on our road that really do not support this at all. And so we just really hope that the commission hears us as residents who live on the road. Our understanding is the petitioner does not live on our road, and so he would not be impacted by this decision at all, except for receiving additional money by subdividing the lots. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Again, anyone that is an attendee, if you would use the raise hand feature, Mr. Newberry will promote you to panelist. And Mr. Chair, while we wait the extra few seconds, I believe, Mr. Newberry, we can reproduce all of the comments in the chat feature and provide those to the Planning and Zoning Commission and make them part of the official record for the public hearing. And the last comment the department has, and it's not been brought up by the petitioner's representative or anyone that has spoken during the public hearing, as well as the Department of Planning, is that wastewater treatment is a key element to any future development of property. And in this particular case, with 1.7 acres, there is no public sanitary sewer to the site. And so that'll be a key determinant the department will use in making its recommendation for the Planning and Zoning Commission's consideration. Thank you.
I was curious about that. Yeah, I didn't know how much past 109 MSD went, but
not that far, sir. In fact, it for the most part goes to Pond School and ends there.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. If Commissioner Helfrey would like to, I'll let her make her motion again, seeing as there's no further comments.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you. And seconded by Commissioner Broyles. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Unmute yourself so I can hear you.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstain? The hearing is closed. Thank you for your participation. Next on the agenda.
Mr. Chair and members of commission, the next item for public consideration at a hearing tonight is PZ 28-21 Ashley Grove, Cypress Real Estate LLC, care of Daniel Stegman, 16100 Swingley Ridge Road, Suite 210, Chesterfield, Missouri, 63017. A request for a change in zoning from the NU non-urban resident district to the R3 10,000 square foot resident district with a planned residential development overlay district, PRD, for a 5-acre parcel of ground that is designated the non-neighborhood edge district of the town center regulating plan and located on the west side of Center Avenue, south of its intersection with Manchester Road. Street address 2623 Center Avenue, St. Louis County, locator number 24V 420032. Proposed use, a total of 12 new single-family dwellings, along with retention of the existing resident, thereby totaling 13 units, all being on individual lots of record with street improvements, common ground, and required public space areas. This particular site is located in Ward 8. And again, with your permission, Mr. Chair, Mr. Newberry will share his screen and provide some information regarding this request for the Planning and Zoning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the following slide presentation are mostly photographs of the site to familiarize the commission with the site. The photographs were also provided as part of the meeting packet for tonight's public hearing. The first slide that is shown is an aerial image of this area of Wildwood, highlighting the subject site in this blue box. West Avenue is here and Center Avenue is here where my cursor is. And the next slides will just be the photographs of the site. This is a view of the existing single-family home that is to remain, thereby creating that 13th lot. This is a view of the accessory structures and the pond associated with the existing home. This is standing the northeast corner of the property, looking to the south onto Center Avenue along the frontage of the property. This photograph provides you a view of the homes across the street in Old Town Park on the east side of Center Avenue. And then this is a view turned the other direction, looking toward the north at the northeast corner of the property towards Manchester Road. This is standing at the southeast corner of the property where the trail that was constructed in association with the Stone Mill subdivision is shown, looking to the west. This is standing at that same location, looking to the northwest, showing the pond and the accessory structures and a portion of the home to the right of the photograph. Again, standing at the same location, looking to the north onto the Center Avenue, and to the south, where Bordeaux Estates subdivision homes and Bordeaux Estates are to the left. This is standing kind of at the midpoint of the property boundary, looking to the north. This is standing at the same location, looking to the northwest. This is standing at the at the southern edge of the existing pond, looking to the northeast. Same location, looking to the west. This is standing at that southern edge of the existing pond, looking towards the Stone Mill subdivision where it abuts the site. And again, to the southwest, more homes in the Stone Mill subdivision. This is again standing on the trail, looking toward the southern boundary of the property. This is standing at the same location, looking to the east towards Center Avenue. And these next few photographs gives you a view points of the kind of the western portion, undeveloped portion of the site. And this is the western property boundary standing on the trail that has been shown in previous photos. into that same location, looking back towards the northeast. The next set of photographs were taken from West Avenue on the west end of the site. This is looking to the west along New College Avenue. This is the location of the McBride proposal. West Church Commons is visible in this photo. This is standing on West Avenue, looking to the south, and at the same location, looking towards the north, towards Manchester Road. And then this is standing at the western boundary line, looking directly east through the site. And again, at that same location, more to the southeast, with the homes shown located in the Stone Mill subdivision. And Mr. Chair and members of the commission, that concludes the department's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Newberry. Let's see here. There are a couple hands raised in the chat. Are those the petitioner or the petitioner's representative, or those residents just wishing to speak on this?
Mr. Chair, there are a few representatives for the petitioner in attendance. Let me sort through the list to promote the panelists.
Good evening.
Good evening. Are you, Mr. Chairman, are you okay for me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Dan Stegman. I'm the managing member of Cypress Real Estate with offices at 16100 Swingley Ridge in Chesterfield. I'm here along with Mike Faulkner. I'm going to be brief tonight. I know your time is precious. I appreciate you hearing our proposal tonight. I just want to give you a couple of thoughts about how we approach this. We're not tone deaf. We heard the fact that density was something that people wanted us to look at, and I wanted to just kind of highlight the fact that kind of took an approach that we wanted to get when you get to West Avenue, which we kind of see as the entrance point. We have 49,000. Get the exact number here so I don't guess on it. 49,642 feet of public realm. So it gave a sense of arrival to our project. We have at least 82 feet of frontage. There are 12 lots. We really thought through this, and if you take our public realm, we get our average up to 15,167 square feet. This is a transition. We are in the town center. And it's going from the larger lots to us to smaller lots to commercial. I've been doing this a long time. Actually, if I'm a little rusty tonight, I haven't done many presentations myself in a long time, but I'm here to, the Schempler family has been friends for a long time and trying to help make this transition for them as well. But the real key to this thing is that we're transitioning from larger lots to these lots to smaller lots to commercial. And really in development, it helps the value of all properties. These are going to be expensive homes, but the homes to our south are going to be more expensive because they're larger lots. It gives us a buffer between the two. We've got the trail between us and the residential. We've got a lot of work to do to get this, which I think is a kind of a mess. These infill things get to be complicated because you've got existing homeowners, and so of course no one wants something to be built next to them. But on the flip side, we've got some commercial to our west and just to our north. We're trying to really work through the process and blend this transition. And I really feel like this public realm that we have at the beginning is a big step for that. We're also trying to get rid of that. I think that pond is a real, me personally, as a father and a grandfather, that pond just looks like a huge nuisance. Just thinking somebody breaking through ice, mosquitoes, Mr. Schempler's not on sewers. There's a lot of things that need to be cleaned up in that area. And we try to blend the concerns of the neighbors. We heard them. We try to deal with that. But I also think it increases the value to our people to the south. We're going to have more expensive homes because they have larger lots. Our people to our west and north are going to have less expensive houses, will increase their values. And I think it's exactly what the planning and zoning established with this town center was to have this as a transitional area. And in the effort of time, Mike can walk you through the details of it, or we're here to answer questions, but not to get so far in the weeds that we take up too much time. So with that, I'll let you talk to Mike or walk you through the details of the plan. Or I know most of you have reviewed it and know the details already. So whatever you prefer, Mr. Chairman, how you would like us to proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Faulkner?
For the record, my name's Mike Faulkner. I'm Vice President of Sterling Engineering. And we're here tonight presenting this new plan that Dan's just kind of went over. And Travis, if you could pull up on the screen, share the screen, some of our exhibits that we provided. This first exhibit, Mr. Chair, is the site, an aerial of the site. And you can see Mr. Slimper's home is in the upper right-hand corner of the site. And of course, you can see the lake. New College is off to the left as it's entering towards West Avenue. And you can see at that location, when we get into the actual slide that shows the layout, it'll make sense on what we're going to be proposing at that location. Travis, if you could go to the next slide, please. This slide just purely just shows town center. This site is the southern end of town center, and you can see the R1A. That's the sites that are outside of town center, and you can see everything inside town center is R3, C8, and to the west you can see the C8, and then some other proposals for some attached single family that I believe is coming forward. Travis, if you could go to the next slide, please. There we are. Great. This is our site plan, and you can see where New College Avenue comes and enters towards the site. You can see we're going to provide some landscaping along there. So any of the vehicles that would be heading eastbound on New College Avenue, we wanted to try and mitigate the lights from that traffic that would filter into the site to try and protect the people in those lots. So we've got a buffer there, but also located our town center public space in that vicinity. And what we're proposing is a walkway that would go to a civic lawn. In the middle of that circular area there of the lawn would be a pergola, which would have some benches there. We have some benches on the outside of that circular area, but on those internal of that circular area would be a hedgerow to create that lawn area or a gathering spot that people could come up and actually enjoy the scenery, would have some additional landscaping. And also, you'll see we show that where our detention basins will be. So we'll be handling the stormwater of this site in those two areas. There'll be one towards the south of our new street and then one to the north of our new street. And as Travis and Joe had said, we're going to have 12 new home sites. Lot 1 will be Mr. Slimper's existing home. It'll be on a lot that will be over 19,000 square feet. And the rest of our lots are all ranging just under 10,000 square foot, roughly about 9,800 100 square foot for each one of the lots. We'll be providing a 26-foot wide street with sidewalks on both sides. We'll have sidewalks that will be along West Avenue, along our frontage, and along Center Avenue. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that anybody may have. We'll try to answer anything we can.
Thank you, Mr. Faulkner. One question I had is what's the depth on the lots, particularly those on the south side of the street?
All the lots will be 120 foot deep.
Oh, thank you.
Both on the north side of the street and the south side of the street.
And you said average width would be about 80 feet?
All the lots will be 82 foot wide.
82, thank you.
Except Mr. Slippers.
Of course, yeah. Mayor Boland?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did I just understand the representative to indicate that the width of all the lots would be 82 feet wide?
Correct.
Okay. And how many homes again are planned for this
That's
location?
correct.
It's 12 new homes in addition to the one existing home.
Okay. And so, Joe, on an acreage basis, how much does that equate to per lot for this particular tract?
Mr. Mayor, when calculating density, you have to deduct the area that's planned for right-of-way, which is generally about 10% of the site, which means the 5 acre becomes about 4.5 acres in size. And so you divide 13 into basically 4.5, and you end up with roughly, 4.5 into the density, and you end up with about 3 per acre.
Okay, and have we received any comments from neighbors in the area relative to the density of this particular proposed development?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we've received comments that were part of the packet. I believe there were at least two, and we have, I believe, a number of individuals that reside along Center Avenue in the Stone Mill subdivision here tonight to speak as well.
Okay, okay. Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you so much.
Commissioner Helfrey?
Okay, I see that in the packet that this says it is neighborhood edge right now. Is that correct, Mr. Greenwich?
Yes, ma'am.
And so what is the allowable houses per acre in neighborhood edge, if you wouldn't mind refreshing my memory?
In principle, in the neighborhood edge district within the town center, densities could range anywhere from 4 to 5 to 6 lots per acre. Generally speaking, though, that's not been achieved in any of the neighborhood edge district developments that have occurred for residential purposes. It's generally been anywhere from 1.5 to 2 to 3 lots per acre.
Okay, and then I'm writing this down, sorry, 2, 3 lots. And so then as I look at this, I see, as I'm looking at the properties surrounding this particular property, the properties on the east side of Center Avenue that face this property, about what is their house per acre size? And then also the area to the south of it, all those houses on that street. I'm just kind of curious what we're comparing lot sizes. Does that make sense? Does my question make sense? I'm looking at another computer that has maps a little bit bigger for me on it. Sorry.
Generally speaking, the estates at Bordeaux, both Plat 1, was a maximum of 2 lots per acre. It's not part of town center. It's a suburban residential area under the master plan. The same is true for Stone Mill. The density was 2 lots per acre, again, based upon the suburban residential area. Those properties in town centers, such as Old Town Park. They were, generally speaking, about 3 lots per acre. Again, being part of town center allowed the increase in density.
Okay, and then my final question is, as I look at this property, there are those 3 long properties that go up to Manchester Road. And those are, what are those zoned?
Generally, most
They're
of the
town center as well?
yes, they are in town center. They're zoned NU non-urban resident district and have been since the incorporation of the city. However, on the town center regulating plan designates those as neighborhood edge district as well.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. I'm just trying to understand it all. Thanks.
You're welcome, ma'am.
And real quick to follow on to that, those 3 narrow, deeper lots, there's only 1 home between the 3 of those right now. Is that correct? Or is there 2?
It is my understanding that there's 1 vacant lot and 2 that have residences as part of them.
Okay, and then a third, so that not including the one on the corner, correct?
Exactly, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Helfrey?
Okay, I promise this is my last question. Are there any designs for the homes that you have that you can share? Or
We don't have the designs for the homes, but
Nothing?
these are, but they're going to be 3-car garage. They're going to be expensive houses, as you know what's happening. But, and I do believe that this is why the town center kind of defines the line. If you're inside the town center, you're not. And so the lots to our south are larger lots. These are smaller than, to our south, they only have 804 square feet of public realm. We've got 49,000. We just decided to have a sense of arrival to the property that would be better. And then as you progress toward the north and to the west, you're going to go to more density and commercial. So when the town center was established, and I don't know if you know, but I was one of the authors of the town center. So as one of the first aldermen in Wildwood, but this was kind of the planning design when the people from Florida came in and so forth. And I have not done anything in the city of Florida, the city of Wildwood since I was first there. But this is I'm helping out an old friend and but this is exactly what transitional zoning does. It takes you from larger lots to 3 acre to 1 acre to something, and you make this move, and this is what it was designed to do. And we could have made some of the lots bigger, but we decided that the public realm, because the appearance of an 82-foot wide lot, which today is actually a pretty wide lot. And I would want to say too, they're all 82 feet, except the ones in the end on center are 94 feet. But the sense of arrival, I think, is important. And that's what creates value for Wildwood. The value that the bigger lots have a value for those. They're not all the same product that people want, and a lot of people equate the size of your lot to the value of your house. And sometimes that's true, but sometimes it creates value for the lower priced ones and it creates higher prices for the larger lots. And so it's a good transition. Now I don't want to kind of skirt past this. Nobody likes any more development than they have currently, but I think that's part of the Planning Commission's directive is to look at the long-term big picture. And does this fit? And is this the right thing for Wildwood? If it is, we'd like you to approve it. If not, obviously they won't approve it. But I think it's really, we worked on this plan really hard and try to make it that transition. So, but the houses will be 3-car garage, nice homes. These lots are going to be expensive. It's just which isn't really necessarily a concern of the commission, but I think good housing stock and a variety of it, smaller lots, larger lots, and then something in the middle, which this is.
Mayor Bowen and then Commissioner Broyles after that.
Thank you. And actually, if we have residents that are wanting to speak, I would certainly be willing to wait, and I'm sure Commissioner Broyles would as well, until after they speak. I just have something I want to mention in regard to the comment that was just made as to, you know, the values and land size, lot sizes and so forth. But I think Joe Benich mentioned earlier that there were some residents who wanted to speak. So if, with your permission, Mr. Chair, if that's the case, maybe we should listen to them first, and then I can go after that, and followed by Commissioner Royals if she's agreeable to that.
I agree.
Okay, so Mr. Eisenman, we'll promote you first, and then Mr. Kruger and Peter after that, since he didn't provide a last name. Mr. Eisenman, if you can unmute yourself.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Hi, my name is Rick Eisenman. I live at 17004 Fallstone Mill Court in Stone Mill Subdivision. I am one of the 3 trustees of Stone Mill Subdivision, representing all 12 of the Stone Mill residents. All 5 of the Whalen-built Old Town Park residents, several other Center Avenue residents, as well as several residents in the adjacent Bardo Estates subdivision. All the above are in agreement with the request we're about to present. There are 2 issues the adjoining residents to the proposed 5-acre development want to make. Number 1, I would like to start by referencing the March 21st, 2016 Planning and Zoning Commission's approval for Stone Mill subdivision. That report contains the following ruling, development characteristics and requirements of Whalen Custom Homes for the Stone Mill subdivision. The Department of Planning included a text change to the master plan to change the definition of suburban residential area to allow Stone Mill to have increasing density of units to 1.75 units per acre. The department went on to say in this paragraph that this site should be developed in the way that provides an appropriate transition, which is a priority for the city. It is very important to note that the proposed Ashley Grove 13 lot development has a density of units 2.6, but I heard 3.0. So we'll go with 3.0. This far exceeds the 1.75 units per acre mandated by the city for Stone Mill subdivision. Stone Mill consists of 8.01 acres, minimum 15,000 square foot lots with a minimum lot width of 100 feet, unless you're in a cul-de-sac. Stone Mill lots range from 15,000, which is lot 2, up to 36,000, which is lot 4, and maintain a density of 1.62 units per acre, which the city of Wildwood was accepted, given the approval density of 1.75 units per acre. In addition, the homes by city ordinance are required to have a side entry garage only. They also are required to have hardy board siding, not vinyl siding. In the primary development plan of Ashley Grove, 10 of the 13 lots are 9,864 square feet with 82-foot fronts. 2 of the lots are at 11,325 foot with 75-foot fronts, and the seller and owner's lot is 19,404 square feet with an 82-foot front on center. Number 2, we are strongly opposed to the street through Ashley Grove be connected to Center Avenue for through traffic. We understand that Mr. Vunick likes connectivity of streets, especially in Old Town, but we are asking he make an exception here. The cut through traffic from 109 to avoid the signals at 109 and Old Manchester intersection, putting them through to Center to east on Old Manchester will be a nuisance, and more importantly, a danger to residents, their children, and their cars on Center Avenue. Please note the fire department has put up a sign on Old Manchester stating it is unlawful to cut through their property to avoid this signalized intersection. And they don't even have kids running around. In summation, we are requesting the Planning and Zoning and the City Council to approve a maximum of 8 lots while adhering to the city regulations and ordinance of 1.75 units per acre, 15,000 square foot lots with a minimum 100-foot lots, front, side entry garages that are required at the adjoining Stone Mill and Old Town Park subdivisions. Strongly oppose putting the street from West Avenue through Center Avenue for many reasons. This will definitely create an unwanted problem for the city. Finally, Mayor Boland stated in the June 7th, 2021 Zoom council meeting that he wants the homes to be comparable to the new surrounding homes in lot size, square footage, architecture, and the value to the adjoining existing homes. As was said in the March 21st, 2016 meeting, the homes in Stone Mill were to be developed in a way to provide an appropriate transition, which is a priority for the city of Wildwood. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see here. Peter? You're muted.
That was my introduction there. You know, you guys miss me. My name is Peter Smith, and I happen to be a landowner in Mills, you know, whatever the subdivision is to the south. Actually, my backyard faces the farmland that is in question. And I'm not sure, I think Mr. Stegman said that pond was a nuisance. From the perspective of all of us who live facing that area, love that pond. I mean, there is a stench out of it that will go away in the event that the sewers are corrected. Speaking of sewage, I wonder if anybody in the I don't know what you guys call Dan's outfit, but be that as it may, have they ever talked to MSD about you know, their requirements for sewage and drainage in that area? I was told a couple of years ago by another developer that the maximum number of homes that could be put in there was 3. Now I have no clue on it. You know, I'm not a sewage guy. I'm not a developer. I'm not a contractor. But you know, 3 homes is a whole lot smaller than smaller than 12 homes. And you know, I do have concern about the you know, facing the homes on the north side of that trail that Wildwood put in, or maybe Mike Whalen put in. I don't know who did it. But be that as it may, I mean, the real concern that I have is, number one, the sewage issue and the traffic issue. I mean, good God. You know, we love our subdivision. We don't want to, you know, detract from that subdivision by having a number of homes put in the north area that would diminish the cost of our homes. I mean, that's a selfish thing. But more importantly, the beauty of this area. That's all I have. And, you know, thank you for listening to you guys. God bless y'all.
Thank you for your comments. I'm Mr. Kruger. I assume since you put your hand down, you don't need to speak anymore. So, oh, there you go. All right, we'll bring you in next.
Hello, are you guys able to hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. Hi, I'm Ben Kruger. I'm at 2607 Center Avenue. The main point that I want to bring up is really the condition of Center Avenue and what these new homes would do to that street, given the current proposal for the improvements on that street. I'm not sure if the developer is familiar with what is going on with the proposed improvements on Center. But if the plan was to continue with Center and West connecting as it currently is today, given I would like to see less homes on that site, but given the plan as it is today, I see that you have extended sidewalks that would connect up to the path that is currently connecting to Stone Mill, and then that sidewalk would continue all the way to, I think, Mr. Klein's yard, and then stopping there. Just curious if there would be opportunity then to bring those sidewalks all the way down, and if that would be something that the developer would be interested in. And then also, we just want to make sure that, the caliber of homes that are putting in, I mean, you're saying they're going to be nice homes, they're going to be nice homes, but, we as homeowners around here, we've invested a lot in our current, homes that we built. I know all of Stone Mills was with Wayland Homes. Myself, there's Wayland Homes, and then Old Town Park across the street. That the caliber of home that we've invested in here is what's being proposed in that area. From my perspective, I would like to get rid of that pond. I think it smells terrible. I know the wind blows by me, it is not pretty. So that is one thing that I would like to get rid of. I know that I may be in the minority in that, if I'm not actually looking at that pond, but from a stench situation, it's not the greatest. So thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Councilman Garitano? All right, you're muted.
Hopefully you can hear me now.
Now I can hear you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So as some of you know, I'm the council, one of the council members in Ward 8, which includes this area. So usually I reserve my comments for later in the process, but I've gotten a lot of inquiries from residents that probably are watching here that I feel I do need to comment at this point. So this, we saw a plan that was before the Development and Zoning Review Committee. So there's an item that we talk about today regarding density, and I want to get to that point, but Mr. Kruger was talking about Center Avenue. We've been dealing with Center Avenue for a long time. And when I say for a long time, it's got to be several years on this street. If you mention Center Avenue, it probably raises the blood pressure of everybody that lives in Old Town Park, Bordeaux Estates, and Stone Mill, because right now it's currently a private road, and our plan is ultimately for the city to take it over. However, Center Avenue will not be designed per town center standard. It will not have sidewalks. It will not have streetlights. And that is per the arrangement with the people that currently own Center Avenue. And so there's a concern that the residents have brought up to me about Center Avenue being able to handle more traffic than it already does, because it's not going to be built to the standards. And so you heard about the connectivity there with the proposed street between West Avenue and Center Avenue. And hence why I mentioned when this came up before Development and Zoning Review that you would look at just connecting on West Avenue. So I raised that comment up just one more time again, so you could be aware. Regarding the lot sizes, the folks at Stone Mill, you've heard they have about 2 lots per acre. You also have Bordeaux Estates. And Stone Mill, I think I know their lot sizes, the widths are about 100 feet on the street, which is the narrower part of the lot. The folks that are on Old Town Park, their lot widths are 100 feet. So when I look at this proposal that's stuck right in between these subdivisions, the argument that I hear that it's denser is to me true, because these lots are 82 feet wide. Somebody mentioned 85 feet before. According to what I'm looking at, it's 82 feet wide. And one of the lots even on the street is 75 feet wide. So the numbers are common sense to me that these are narrower lots compared to what surrounds them over there. Now, there is a residential proposal that actually is on the agenda for later for West Avenue and New College Avenue. So we'll have residential over on that side. So I think, and this was brought up at the Development and Zoning Review, and the city also sent a letter on October 12th from the Director of Planning and Parks that reiterated that point about bringing that number of 12 lots down. Unfortunately, and I was hoping we'd see something that was larger, that would be larger lots, smaller, less number of lots. We didn't see that in this proposal. I understand, Mr. Stegman, you were involved with the city, you mentioned, but I'll tell you one thing I've heard over the last 6 years and included in our Wildwood 2020 plan is our residents want larger lots. And so we're trying to hold that true there. And so that's what I would like to see, if you can come back with a proposal that takes that into consideration. So again, I don't usually comment, but when I have so many people calling and contacting me, I'd be foolish to sit silent. So I have to raise these points here. And that's all I've got.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Johnson, I think I saw you have put your hand up. Did you want to speak? All right. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this?
Can I respond, Mr.
Oh,
Chairman?
here we go. Yeah, Mr. Johnson.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Hey, great. I just wanted to add on to Ben's point. I'm on 2608 Center Avenue. And I think one of the challenges we talked about, obviously you guys have heard about this road at many meetings. I think due to the trees and what's kind of, there's no sidewalk on the street and no lights based on what was agreed to by the city prior to any of our arrival. So we're talking about a road, if I remember correctly, that's only 22 feet wide total. You can check with Mr. Vunich on that. But when we start thinking about pushing another subdivision through here, along with the residents at the end of the street and our residents, it'll get pretty tight. And obviously with no lights and no sidewalks, that's a hazard that I don't think we need to create unnecessarily when there's other options. So I just wanted to make sure that I brought those points up during the meeting, although I'm sure in the perfect world, it'd be great for them to be able to pull through no matter what's decided. I think that should be a non-starter based on the conditions and terms that the city agreed to with the previous homeowners before we moved in and built on this road.
Thank you for your comments. Ron?
Hey, one other quick thing.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, the other question with the number of houses that we're going to add. So I've already had to have a plumber out here once because the water pressure is horrible. We're right on the cusp of the lowest water pressure that we possibly can have. So I'd be interested to see if there's been any understanding with adding 12 to 13 more houses in this area. What's that going to mean for the rest of us?
Thank you. Well, let's see. Ron, did you want to speak? All right. We'll go ahead and bring you in. All right. Unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. Thank you.
Oh, great, thanks. My name is Ron Petruska. My wife Lynn and I live at 17009 Fallstone Mill Court in Stone Mill. And I'm in 100% agreement with a lot of the comments that were made today. The one that I wanted to bring up, Mr. Johnson actually just brought up, and that's the water pressure issue. We have severely low water pressure, although within spec of MSD. I had MSD come out here when we moved into this area.
No, St. Louis.
And St. Louis water, and the pressure that was measured was just shy of 50 psi. Typically in Wildwood, I'm under the understanding that the pressures run typically about 100 psi. My big concern too would be adding, be it 8 or however many houses that would come off of that 8-inch line feeding the water supply to Stone Mill would degrade it. So that has to be something that really needs to be considered regardless of what development is put forward. That's all I had. I appreciate the time.
Thank you for your comments. All right, Mayor Boland.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I just wanted to mention relative to the comment that was made earlier as to the value of the properties in relation to land, and I'm not getting into pricing because we can't do that. And I really appreciate, the comment that was made. And I definitely appreciate his service to the city many years ago. The only thing I wanted to say relative to land as it relates to the long-term value, not pricing of a home, is that land never, and the accountants will tell us this, so the land does not depreciate. No matter what you build the house out of and how big it is and all the gold and diamonds that go into it, quote unquote, it starts to depreciate. Land never depreciates. And so I think it's good that we're focusing on, the lot sizes and so forth. So that's just for something I wanted to mention for edification. But more importantly, relative to the comments that have been made tonight by the residents, and I have to say the succinctness with which they've made these comments and so forth is one of the best I've ever seen. And relative to, for example, the pond and the odor, the comment relative to that, the addition to sewage and so forth, I would just ask that our Department of Planning make note of all those. And when the report comes back, if the recommendation is to approve this development in some form, that consideration also be given to each of those comments relative to ameliorating the concerns of the residents that have been expressed tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Broyles.
Thank you for remembering me.
I try.
No, I have enjoyed listening to the many issues and possibilities for this particular housing units. In my estimation, just looking at what I saw in the pictures, it looked very crowded to me. And I'm not an engineer, but I've lived in several different places in my life. And one of the things that Wildwood wants is some freedom to move about, and the nature, the trails, and all of this traffic. Many of this has been said. The water issues are absolutely important because where I live in Wildwood is just a little bit west of 109, and there are water issues, pressure issues there. The sewer issues, the traffic, I think the parcel of land is probably not the issue. I can see something placed there in some point in time, but we really need to slow it down and look at it. We're also going to be talking about New College Avenue and some options for housing there as well this evening. So thank you for letting me just share that with you. And thank you for all your comments.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Vunich, so the water pressure seems, I remember the owners over in the Meadows of Wildwood bringing this up when the apartments were proposed across the street a few months ago. And I mean, I live in the area too. I'm right on the north side of Manchester, and like maybe I've got a good shower head, but I don't notice too much of that, except like my kitchen faucet does seem a little soft when it's on cold water only. And so maybe I have them and just don't realize how bad it is. I don't know. But I just know when I'm taking a shower, I've got plenty of pressure. Can you elaborate on the locality and the widespreadness of this low pressure zone, I guess?
Mr. Chair, the water pressure issue is a known concern by the city. As Ms. Broyles noted, with the development of Meadows Wildwood, it was front and center when that was being considered at its initial zoning hearing. We also know there are instances of problems in Westridge Oaks, a subdivision developed by St. Louis County, or approved by St. Louis County and developed many years ago, starting in 1994. The department is concerned, and as part of the discussion that's upcoming on Westridge Commons, there is a condition that speaks to the water pressure and volume. And certainly, I think the key goal of the city is not to create a greater problem than may exist now, and certainly work toward a solution for everybody.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment?
Sure.
I appreciate the comments of the people in the subdivision, and I get that. We connected the street kind of at directive of connectivity, because there's this whole thing of connectivity. I kind of believe in connectivity, but we're not married to connectivity here. But I personally, from a planning perspective, I like connectivity, but I understand center got a lot of problems. So I want to acknowledge that. So coming off from West Avenue would be probably a preference from a development standpoint, but if I'm a planner, I'd probably rather have the connectivity to it. The lot sizes, if I took this from 12 to 10, the lots would be 2,000 square feet bigger. You wouldn't visually notice the difference in them. I think it's really about how you do the development, the public realm, how you approach it. Maybe coming off of West, if that would be, and maybe coming from the west with a sidewalk coming off of Center Avenue, so people could come down the street and access the trail. But I get it. The planning's a very difficult deal, and when people are next door, I don't want to just gloss over it. I really try to take good planning principles, and the density really kind of is an issue. I'll say that we got to figure out the water and the sewer issue for sure, because that's if you don't have water pressure, you can't sell homes. But sometimes when you connect water, what they call, and Joe could tell you this, you have a loop system, and once you connect another system, it actually increases the pressure because you loop it from coming off of 109, coming in off of the other side there. So that could actually help the water pressure issue, but we have to have water pressure or we can't meet the fire code and so forth. So by no means, I want to tell you that I'm not insensitive to the neighbors next door, but the difference between their development, our development is we're in town center. Town center is the transition. When you're outside the town center, you go all the way to 3 acres. And quite honestly, I don't like making exceptions. And the reason why I'm doing this for the Schemplers is because it was in the town center. I think it conformed. We could have gone up in, not that you would have approved it, but we could have gone up to, I don't know, 19 or 20 units under the current town center zoning. So, I had a lot of people say, we need villas in Wildwood. We need townhouses in Wildwood. But I really feel like that was the wrong move for this. And so I'm willing to work with the neighbors. We're willing to meet with them. And in no means trying to I mean, I got to tell you, this is not some big monetary gain for myself. So I'm happy to work with them and discuss it. And if the city was okay with it, we would be more than happy to come, not connect to Center Avenue as well. So I know you have a big agenda tonight, so I'm going to be brief and let you guys move to your next agenda item here soon, because I know it's a long night for y'all.
Thank you for those comments. Mayor Boland. Oh, sorry, Mr. Faulkner.
I just wanted to answer some of the questions that some of the people had had, and Dan did hit right on. With us, with this development, will allow for that water main to be extended that will connect the two, that will help the pressure within the Stone Mill subdivision. So that connectivity of that main will create a loop system for the area. So it's going to not only help them, but help the entire area. Also, we're going to be, with this development, extending a sanitary sewer up towards Center Avenue, and which will service this, and then provide additional means for the area to hook up to that sanitary sewer and help some of the issues that some of the residents have posed here. The other thing too is, if you look at this development has about 1.14 acres of public space. If you look at Stone Mill, they don't have any common ground. So the only items that they have is the trail that runs along their north property line. So keep in mind that this property is giving 1.14 acres of public space. So if you look at it in the density wise, we're actually providing open space by leaving the lots a little smaller. And as far as stormwater, I mentioned that we'll be providing the necessary stormwater. We've met with MSD, so we'll be able to help a lot of situations that are currently out there now with this development.
Thank you for your comments. Mayor Boland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Real quickly, I just want to thank Dan for his comments that he just made. Those were very salient and right on point here. And as far as the connectivity goes, and I say this with all due respect to our Director of Planning, certainly it's one of those pros and cons. There can be advantages to that in terms of safety, overall feel of the city. But on the negative side of that, it can be at the sacrifice of the feeling of the neighborhood. And so I greatly appreciate what the residents said. But I think as this goes forward and we see what the department comes back with in terms of recommendations as to balancing all these interests, I'm hopeful that it will be able to do that. And thanks to everyone again for all the comments.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, can I get a motion to close the public hearing? Motion by Commissioner Broyles.
Second.
Seconded by Mayor Boland. All those in favor, unmute and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? The public hearing is closed. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Next on the agenda.
Thank you for your patience as I tried to unmute myself. PZ 30-21, City of Wildwood Planning and Zoning Commission, care of Department of Planning, City Hall 16860 Main Street, Wildwood, Missouri 63040. A request for the consideration of certain changes to Chapter 415 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Wildwood by enacting a new Section 415.600 supplementary regulations for agricultural and aquacultural operations, which would thereby allow for the restoration and authorization of any use permitted by right on any site therein, having said type of activity in association with it without affecting its non-conforming nature, all wards.
Thank you. Mr. Vunich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, at the end of 2020, the Planning and Parks Committee of City Council undertook a review of the noise code as well as certain components of the zoning ordinance affecting aquaculture operations. Ultimately, after many meetings through the end of 2020, as mentioned, and through 2021, the Planning and Parks Committee of City Council ultimately made recommendations relating to the noise code, which are not under consideration by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and one change to the zoning ordinance that would affect aquaculture operations that are in existence at this time. In the city, there is just a single aquaculture operation in place at this time. The change relates to allowing permitted uses to be restored, and those permitted uses could be restored without the aquaculture operation losing its grandfathering condition. The Planning and Parks Committee submitted a recommendation to City Council, and City Council will pursue the items relating to the noise code at a future meeting. But with the zoning ordinance, the item needed to be presented at public hearing to the Planning and Zoning Commission with recommendation to follow. The rationale for the change to the aquaculture operation and the components of the zoning ordinance relate to the allowance of permitted uses in improving the condition at the site versus not improving it, and the belief that having a dwelling on the property would address some outstanding concerns of surrounding property owners. Therefore, tonight, the department has provided you a primer on this particular subject, along with the report that was prepared by the Planning and Parks Committee that goes into much greater detail about the process and the recommendation coming forth from that group. The department is available for any questions or comments at this time relative to this hearing item. And again, there may be attendees wanting to speak at the hearing as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vernich. Any comments? Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this matter?
Again, if there's anyone in the attendees that would like to speak, if you would use the raise hand feature.
Mayor Bowen? You're muted. You are muted. Mayor Bowen?
I'll say it again, seeing none, if there are no public comments, I would move that the hearing be closed relative to this matter.
Second by Commissioner Helfrey. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. All right, next on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. PZ 23 and 23A-21, Westridge Commons, McBride Barra Land Company, LLC, care of Jeannie Allmiller, 17415 North Outer 40 Road, Chesterfield, Missouri, 63005. A request for a modification from the workplace district designation of the town center regulating plan to the neighborhood general district on a 2.51 acre tract of land consisting of 5 lots of record, all being located on the north and south sides of New College Avenue between State Route 109 and West Avenue. Street addresses 17001, 17002, 17005, 17006, and 17010 New College Avenue. St. Louis County locator numbers 24V420362, 24V20351, 24V420313, 24V420340, and 24V420331. Accompanying the aforementioned regulating plan modification is a request for a change in zoning from the amended C8 Plan Commercial District, PZ 14-01 McLean Partners, to the R6A 4,000 square foot residence district with a planned residential development overlay district for the same tract of land. These requests seek to modify the use of the subject tract of land from its current vacant and undeveloped commercial status to a residential type. Proposed use, a total of 18 attached single-family dwellings on individual lots of record with common ground and required public space areas, Ward 8.
Thank you. Mr. Vernich?
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Department of Planning has prepared for your consideration tonight its information report with recommendation regarding the items just read into the record by Mr. Newberry. I do want to note that this particular report with recommendation was available at the November meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And at that time, the petitioner, McBride Homes, requested a postponement to allow further consideration of the report and conditions associated with the recommendation. The department does want to also note that a meeting was held between the petitioner, McBride Homes, and the Department of Planning to go over those conditions of interest or concern to the petitioner. The addendum addresses those items and has the explanation of petitioner's position as well as the department's response. Before going into limited detail on these items, the department would note first that the properties are currently zoned CA Plan Commercial District and are intended to accommodate office warehouse buildings. That particular zoning occurred consistent with the town center regulating plan at the time and currently, which is the workplace district designation. However, as everyone is aware, as part of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the properties have never developed and have been vacant for over a decade. The properties have become, in certain instances, problem properties because of their condition, the lack of maintenance, and just the turnover in ownership, leading to problems associated with existing infrastructure, etc. The opportunity to have a viable development come forward and to cure the problem properties is an attractive option for the Department of Planning to consider. Regardless of that attractiveness, the department did want to ensure that the development of the site with residential provided the appropriate transition. And in this particular case, the proposal was submitted to the Development and Zoning Review Committee of the city, which consists of Mayor Bolin, the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the council liaison on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the 2 ward representatives. Generally speaking, the Development and Zoning Review Committee also concurred that some type of development of this nature, which is a unit type that doesn't exist elsewhere in town center, would be appropriate under the correct set of conditions. Over the course of the past month, as mentioned, the department has been working with the petitioner and internally to create the appropriate formula for the use of property. And tonight is recommending the regulating plan change from workplace district, a commercial component, to neighborhood general, a residential component, which would accommodate 18 units on the 2.5 acre tract. And those units would be in clusters of building clusters of 3 and 4. Also associated with this is the general architecture to ensure that the transition from west to east, from commercial to established residential, is appropriate. And so from that perspective, over the course of that month period of time that's been mentioned, the petitioner and the department has worked to ensure that as the units are constructed from west to east, so to speak, the improvements to the character of the building are improved. There are some accommodations given the development of the site. All the public infrastructure, roadways, sidewalks, streetscape are in place. The only improvements in that nature to be built are the service lanes to provide access to the rear of the buildings to the garages. The department would also note that the petitioner has dropped their request for vinyl siding and has agreed to fiber cement siding in lieu of that, which is consistent with all other residential projects in its vicinity. So tonight, again, the department is recommending the regulating plan change be adopted by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and favorable recommendations be granted relative to the rezoning request and the use of the planned residential development overlay district to ensure compliance to the new urbanism, the neighborhood design standards, and architectural guidelines. The department believes that this is a good transition use between established commercial, like West County Nursery and the Westridge Office Center 1 and 2, and the established and growing residential pattern to the east, anchored by Stone Mill and Center Avenue. Therefore, tonight, the department is presenting its recommendation. It's available to answer any questions or comments regarding such recommendation. And I would note there is a group of individuals that are representing McBride Homes that are now part of the screen as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vunich. Mayor Boland.
So I'm going to make a motion to approve this, but relative to the ability of anyone to comment at this point, given that we've had a hearing on this already, I would ask our city attorney to let us know whether that is appropriate.
Mr. Mayor, in terms of commentary from the applicant, it is appropriate to the extent that the commission has any questions of them. You are welcome to ask them questions and they can respond to those questions, but I don't think it's appropriate to have a separate presentation.
Okay, thank you. So my motion would be to approve the development as presented with the modifications that Mr. Vinich just mentioned. And then once this is done, Mr. Chairman, I have another suggestion, if I might, relative to the remaining items on the agenda to expedite the meeting before the items before the commission in the meeting tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Broyles, or unmute yourself.
I believe Miss Ward asked the Planning and Zoning Commission, the planning, if she could see a picture of the back of the buildings. I saw that, her request of that today, and I don't recall ever seeing the back of the buildings.
Mr. Chair, since we have a proposed motion on the floor, if we could get a second before we get too far into discussion.
Sure.
Seconded by Commissioner Cone. All right, now for discussion. And
if I may ask Commissioner Broyles, respond to Commissioner Broyles' question, there are these types of units that have been constructed elsewhere in the metropolitan area. I'm sure the petitioner, as well as the Department of Planning, could provide photographs, if not architectural drawings of the rear of the units prior to the letter of recommendation being presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission for its final action. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Sawmiller.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just be very brief. We can provide those pictures before the next meeting. And I want to thank you for continuing this at the last meeting. I want to thank the department for meeting with us. We're in agreement with all the conditions tonight. But at the next meeting, we can, Commissioner Broyles, provide those pictures. We can go out and take some and provide those prior to the next meeting or at the next meeting. Thank you.
Mayor Boland.
I just wanted to mention, technically, there was no question directed to Ms. Miller, so that we just need to stay clean with the legal. So,
yeah, that's. Excuse me. I just knew that Mrs. Ward had asked for that today, and I wasn't sure.
No, I get that. I wasn't talking relative to that, but her question was directed to the department to get that, not necessarily to the petitioner before us tonight. And I just wanted to say we have to be careful about that, but I appreciate the information that's been provided. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Helfrey?
This question is for Mr. Bunich, and I'm just curious, Mr. Bunich, after hearing the public comment for the Ashley Grove and the water issues, that we don't foresee a water issue with this development. Is that correct?
Well, certainly the department anticipated questions in regards to water pressure and volume. And as mentioned, as part of the set of conditions relative to this project, there is a requirement that before the, let's say, site development plan process and the improvement plans are completed, that Missouri American Water Company, as well as the Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District, provide verification to the petitioner, then to the city, that the water volume and pressure will not be impacted in a negative way. And more importantly, as well, that this particular project will be served by adequate water pressure and volume and sanitary sewer.
So will we have an answer to that before our next meeting?
I will do my very best to work with Missouri American Water Company and the two petitioners to ensure that we don't detract from existing conditions and harm residents that are in place, as well as ensure that buyers of new homes or these row houses have adequate service as well.
Okay, thank you, Joe, because you'll have to forgive my ignorance, but my fear is that if we don't have that information and then we're asked to make a final determination on this, I would not feel comfortable doing so.
And I certainly concur with that. Most people take for granted having appropriate water pressure for washing dishes, doing laundry, all the sundry things that go along with that. And not to have it and have to struggle with it day in and day out, the city would be doing a disservice to everyone if we didn't solve the problem or at least have a solution in place.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Helfrey,
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn,
Yes.
Commissioner Broyles,
Yes.
Commissioner Clayton. Yes. Commissioner Doppler,
Yes.
Chair Beatty,
Yes.
Mayor Boland.
Yes.
And point of order, I believe Commissioner Clayton, your camera is supposed to be on when you're voting. Am I mistaken?
I'll correct that. Commissioner Clayton? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Motion passes. And Mayor Boland, you have a suggestion for the rest of the agenda?
I do. And Mr. Chairman, this is up to you as chair, or if any member of the commission objects, but just looking at the remainder of the agenda, and given the reports that we've received and the nature of those, my suggestion would be that you allow the Director of Planning to give a brief synopsis of each one of those, and that after that is done, we vote on each one of them rather than doing it with a report and a vote and a report and a vote and a report and a vote. So I think that would expedite the business of the commission, but we can certainly do them separately. But again, I think that it would move things along if Mr. Vintage was allowed to give us a brief synopsis of each one, and then we have a vote on each one following his presentation. Thank you.
All right, I'm willing to give that a try. Does the rest of the commission feel the same? Any objections? All right, seeing none, let's give it a shot.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Mr. Chair and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the first item is PZ 29-21. This relates to 1045 Babler Park Drive, care of David Spitznagel. The request is to change the zoning of the property from floodplain park and scenic district to park and scenic district and floodplain park and scenic district to NU non-urban resident district and floodplain non-urban resident district. There is an existing single-family dwelling that exists on the 6+ acre parcel of ground. That particular dwelling is a nonconformity given the zoning of the property, and the Spitznagels are recent purchasers of the property and home and would like to expand it, and without the change of zoning, they cannot. There is an issue with the neighbor regarding access, which will be addressed as we go through the rezoning process if the Planning and Zoning Commission favorably acts on the recommendation tonight. The next item relates to an existing telecommunications tower that is located on Joe's Way. The tower was originally approved in 1998 and has been in place since that time. A number of conditions exist relating to it being adequately landscaped and, more importantly, camouflaged as best as possible for a monopole so as the horizon isn't negatively impacted by it to a great extent. The department has done a site inspection on the property and is recommending again this year that the extension be granted to the conditional use permit. Recently, the City Council altered the conditions relating to the Architectural Review Board so that once an action is taken by the Architectural Review Board on any project outside town center area, that it be presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission for final action. Therefore, tonight, the bylaws are being modified to reflect the way that the liaison now from Planning and Zoning Commission to the Architectural Review Board is selected, as well as the department took the liberty to change the meeting schedule from the mandatory 2 meetings per month to a minimum of 1 meeting per month, which allows for additional meetings as set forth in the bylaws. The next item relates to the 2022 calendar of the Planning and Zoning Commission. As you know, at the end of each year, we set the calendar for the upcoming year. The calendar anticipates the 2 typical days off, so to speak, at the start of the new year, January, and then instead of at the start of July, due to the 4th of July holiday, the middle meeting or the 3rd Monday in July as the meeting date. The calendar does anticipate, as mentioned, 1 meeting per month unless otherwise directed by the Planning and Zoning Commission or the chair or both. And then finally, in keeping with the request from the Planning and Zoning Commission, specifically Mayor Boland, the department has begun formulating that list of resources, primarily documents that are available regarding the Special Circumstances Overlay District and the sites associated with them at this time. Those are the 10 properties that will be proceeding forward for consideration by the Planning and Zoning Commission at the start of 2022. If there are any questions regarding those items, the Department of Planning, that be Mr. Newberry, Ms. Ripito, or I are available to respond to them at this time. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vernich. Commissioner Helfrey?
Okay, so I'm going along with you on this, Mayor, but boy, it really caused me to pay attention and be on my toes. All right, so here we go. I'm going back to the agenda. For the calendar, Mr. Vernich, there are no work sessions on there anywhere. Are those still a possibility? That is number 1. Hold it, wait a second, because I'm going to try to go through them. I'll go back in order. Badler Park, Spritznagel, that is pretty much a cleanup, right? That's come before us before. It's just a cleanup, and that's all that is. You can answer that in a minute. And then Joe's Way, okay, I got that. Amendments to Tnz Bylaws. Okay, I'm good. Just those 2 questions.
The Planning and Zoning Commission can establish work sessions at any time it should choose. It is usually done by a motion second and voice vote of the majority of members present at that time. And we typically do work sessions when we have kind of broad issues that we're looking at, like regulation changes to the tree preservation restoration code, the subdivision development regulations, et cetera. So yes, that does not preclude that in any way, does not preclude such from happening in any way. In terms of Mr. Spitznagel's request, quite frankly, when the property was sold by the state of Missouri, to private owners. This rezoning should have been pursued by St. Louis County. All we're doing is trying to catch up the process now, almost 4 decades later. Thank you.
And then on the Spitznagel property, I was reading through the comments from Mr. Kolick. That's, I mean, I understand his concerns, but we aren't necessarily approving all of his improvements by approving the rezoning. Correct?
That is very correct, Mr. Chair, and I made a commitment to both parties that we'll figure the access out, and certainly with the opportunity to relocate the driveway if there is an encroachment, we can certainly achieve that. Because again, the Spitznagels are doing a significant amount of improvement to the property, and with those improvements, I think the area will be better for them than under the current conditions.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Mayor Boland?
So I will just kick this off, and relative to the next item, which is PZ 29-21, I would make a motion to approve the recommendation of the department. And I also actually just want to clarify something I misspoke. We have one item, which is item 10, Roman numeral 10-3, which is XCPZ Special Circumstances Overlay SCODE Matrix. I don't think that it doesn't appear that needs any sort of approval, but it's here with, it's the only one that's in the within Roman numeral 10 that doesn't have a grid. So Joe, does that need any sort of approval, or is that just here for information? And I read the report, it seemed to be for information only, but.
You have astutely described it. It requires no action. It's just for information, just kind of keeping you as the Planning and Zoning Commission in the loop as we collect the data that we need to make recommendations. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. So if there's no objection, then my earlier recommendation would be to exclude that one, and that we, next vote on the one that the Babbler Park PZ 29-21, and I'll make a motion for that one. And then we'll go to the next, basically any of the next three, or all of the next three that show a block with a vote. And clearly the one for the Special Circumstances Overlay District that's included within that listing does not. So that's my motion for the next one. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Helfrey?
Second the approval of Babbler Park.
All right. Any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Cohn,
Wrong button. Yes.
Commissioner Broyles,
Yes.
Commissioner Clayton,
Yes.
Commissioner Depler. Commissioner Depler.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Helfrey,
Yes.
Chair Beatty,
Yes.
Mayor Boland.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Next. 20 or PZ 4-98. Is there a motion? Was Mayor Boland? You're muted.
All right, I would move to approve as recommended by the department. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Depler. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Commissioner Broyles,
Yes.
Commissioner Clayton,
Yes.
Commissioner Depler,
Yes.
Commissioner Helfrey,
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn,
Yes.
Chair Beatty,
Yes.
Mayor Boland.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. The amendment to the P&Z bylaws.
I motion that it pass.
All right. Motion to approve by Commissioner Clayton. Can I get a second? By Commissioner Broyles. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Commissioner Depler,
Yes.
Commissioner Helfrey,
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn,
Yes.
Commissioner Broyles,
Yes.
Commissioner Clayton,
Yes.
Chair Beatty,
Yes.
Mayor Boland.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, motion passes. All righty, and the calendar approval. Motion by Commissioner Depler.
I did have
Sorry.
thing as well. It says in the verbiage on the memo that the January and July meetings are on the second Monday of the month, but they're actually on the calendar on the third Monday of the month. But other than that,
Well, first and foremost, Ms. Depler, thanks for catching that. That's a mistake on my part. And so we'll change that. As you remember, we used to meet on the first and third Mondays of the month. City Council reserves second and fourth Monday. So we'll change that. And please make note of it if you are to vote on it tonight, the other commission members. Thank you.
so with that change, I recommend to approve the calendar.
All right, motion by Commissioner Depler, second by Commissioner Helfrey. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Commissioner Helfrey,
Yes.
Commissioner Cohn,
Yes.
Commissioner Broyles,
Yes.
Commissioner Clayton,
Yes.
Commissioner Depler,
Yes.
Chair Beatty,
Yes.
Mayor Boland.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. And then, and then you've given us the matrix for the SCOD matrix, the special circumstances overlay. And with that, we are at the end of the agenda. Mayor Boland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and not to delay things, but I just would like to take a point of personal privilege and mention that with all of the lengthy issues, this was a very well-run meeting, and I want to thank each one of you for all that you do for the city of Wildwood.
Thank you. And with everything that was on the agenda, I'm kind of impressed we're out of here in 2.5 hours.
Mr.
Thank
Chair,
you and happy holidays.
Same to you.
Mr. Chair, we need a motion and second to adjourn, and the three of us.
To adjourn.
Seconded by Commissioner Depler. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any
And
opposed?
thank you, Melanie.
All right. We
I
are
hope you all
adjourned.
have
Happy
wonderful
holidays,
holidays.
everyone.
Happy holidays.